Our chief guest, Dr. Arnaba Ghosh, Director, Professor Ranjan Bose, Deans, faculty, staff of the Institute, and our chief guests for today, and also our chief hosts in many ways, the graduating students. Good morning and welcome to all of you. Welcome also to the guardians, parents, invitees, and guests today. Delighted to have you all here. Unfortunately, this being our biggest hall, we can't accommodate all of you together, but I know you're seeing us from wherever you're sitting. I want to spend a few minutes sharing a few thoughts with you before we hear our chief guest. The last 2 years have been very difficult for all of us. And it is indeed such a pleasure to be back here today on campus in person for the convocation. Our last convocation, and some of you would have attended it as students, and of course the faculty and staff would have been here, was in 2019. It's been a long time, and to me it's a great delight to be back at a convocation, seeing the students and their parents with happiness on their faces and expectation in their minds to be here in person and to see so many of you again. We've gone through difficult times. Many of us have gone through personal sorrows and difficulties. Many of us have seen others go through deep pain. Been a dark tunnel, and for some time we didn't know when we are going to get out of it. In fact, as someone said, whether we are going to get out of it at all, individually. Fortunately, those times seem to have gone. As I walked around the campus today, I saw nobody wearing a mask. And to me, that was a great sign. It's a delight to see people's faces and not covered up. To me, that reflects the signs of the times and where we have come. But as you reflect back, do think of a few things which we have learned from there. It's been a great learning experience. It's been a time where travails and difficulties, even hopelessness, took hold of some of us. But we have come out of it. And to me, what's important is what have we learned from it. Many, many different kinds of things. But just to pick one or two of them, the first is the resilience. The fact that we can come back, we can fight back, and that we can do everything we should do. The second, as part of that, is what we together as a country could achieve. Yes, we did go through some difficult times. We probably made a few mistakes. But when you look back, you see the kind of tremendous achievements that were there. Just look at the engineering. When the pandemic first hit us, even on things like ventilators, even things like PPEs, the personal protective equipment, was not made in the country. Very, very little of it. It was being imported, and we had great difficulties. And yet, in a few months, we were not only self-sufficient, we were set to export it to others to help other countries. Vaccination. Not only did we produce vaccines here, we have sent millions of doses out to our friends in other countries and exported them. We were able to produce those by getting together, collaborating, working, and putting our minds to the job. Many, many other instances of what we've been able to achieve in those 2 years. But also important is what we have personally learned. And one of the big things that we learned right here in this institute, that how working as a team and working together and looking at solutions and looking at every problem of how can we get over this has helped us through. We were able to very quickly get back on the academic calendar, to get to online teaching, and I recognize that some of you may have had difficulties, but yet we were able to do something there. We were able to get the courses back and graduate students as we continued our teaching. And I think our faculty and staff deserve special praise for this, and especially the students who went through these difficult times, kept up their motivation, kept up their learning, and saw that at the end of this all, we've learned what we needed to learn. We also learned a big lesson in terms of what happens when such a thing hits not just us, but everybody else around us. And the one big takeaway there is that no one is safe till everyone is safe. If there is one infection, it will infect others and it will multiply. Therefore the lockdowns, therefore the vaccinations, therefore the special care, the quarantines, which many of us have gone through, even personally. But the lesson from that is again to repeat, no one is safe till everyone is safe. And I would urge you to think of that and extend it to a much broader scope than just health. That no one is going to be truly healthy till everyone is healthy. That's obvious in terms of the health sector and infections and contagion, but it's equally true in other areas, whether it's economics or whether it is harmony. If there are huge disparities in our society, no one is going to be able to truly enjoy their wealth. It's our job to try and see how can we get everybody up so that no one is left behind. In the same way as we interact in society, it's very important for us to understand that each person deserves respect, conversation, compassion, and take that forward. To me, these are the big lessons that we learned in the last 2 years of what we need to take forward as we forget the pandemic. Not forget it, but at least put it into our past and move ahead to much better times. The other big thing which we learned is all about the power of technology. I mentioned online learning, but everything from simple ordering your groceries at home to interacting with friends without going to their place, without meeting anywhere, to entertainment, all came to us via technology. And the role of technology clearly established itself as being very central to what we need to do. Even though those times have passed when we needed to be locked in, the role and importance of technology and what it can do has not. But what is a challenge is to see how can we use these very powerful tools to solve some of the issues, problems, difficulties that we have. And to me, that's a big challenge. Many of you will create technology. Many of you will help to come up with completely new thoughts and ideas on new equipment, new machines, new software, new algorithms. But there will be many of you who will look at these and say, how can I use it? Not I as in singular, but how can we begin to use it? How can society benefit from this? And I think there are huge opportunities there waiting to be tapped. And to me, the one takeaway from that is a thought again I want to share with you, is that today it is fortunately possible to do well while you do good. When I was growing up, very wrongly, I assumed these are two separate things. They're almost octagonal, that you did well, which means you made a lot of money and maybe fame, whatever, or you did good. And the doing good is signified, if I can use a shorthand image to you, by a person who's gone off into the village in a rural area in a very poor setting and tried to help the people there. That was doing good. And doing well was sitting in a corporate job or running an industry or owning one and making a lot of money. But today, concepts have changed and possibilities have changed. You can do well by doing good. Not doing well and doing good, but doing well by doing good. Let me give you just two examples, both from the health area, because that comes quickest to mind. One is top of mind for a reason I'll come to in a moment. But I talked earlier of the pandemic. And I know someone who came up with a lovely design using existing technologies, no great inventions, to convert and embed a mattress with sensors so that you could create a mini ICU or a 90 to 95% ICU at 1/5 the cost or lower. And you can imagine what this might do when you have serious health problems like a pandemic. But even in normal times, in hospitals, in places which don't have facilities, phenomenal thing. And this person did commercialize it. And it's a technology that's available now. He's making good money, I'm sure. But imagine the amount of good it is doing for people and hospitals and clinics that can't afford an ICU, and for patients who need an ICU, but which is too expensive. And here it is something at 1/5 of the cost, using existing technologies. The other one, which to me is very recent because I was involved with some awards jury and I was happy that this one got the first prize, is again something that uses much of existing technology with some tweaks and improvements, which is to just use your cell phone to record a cough when you have a problem. And then through AI and ML, it's analyzed to be able to say whether the person can be diagnosed to have what kind of respiratory problem, ranging from tuberculosis, which even today is a huge scourge in our country, to a whole range of other respiratory problems. And this is being taken much further to be able to fine-tune them. And I'm told the reliability is already over 95%. Not enough, let me stress that, for certain health things. But for first-level diagnosis, it's fantastic. I mean, imagine out in difficult areas, typically rural areas where there are very poor health facilities and no diagnostic facilities, to be able to do this because you have connectivity, because you have a hand phone, record it, transmit it, and somewhere in some faraway place, it all goes through some very sophisticated machines, computers, algorithms, based on huge amounts of data which have been stored, and comes back with a diagnosis, which says go to hospital and get it re-verified or rechecked, or saying doesn't look like anything, but check again after a month. Imagine the time saving, the cost saving, the kinds of healthcare that you can provide. And this again has come up and is being commercialized. So the person's obviously going to do very well. You can imagine the demand, not just in India, but around the globe for such a device. Not just in poorer countries, but even in rich countries where, for whatever reason, somebody is homebound and has difficulty going to the clinic or getting a test done, and gets a first-order diagnostic with such a device. Again, doing well by doing good. So I want to leave that thought with you, because many of you will want to or think of going into things which are innovative, creative, and entrepreneurial. So look at what combinations you can do which fulfill your needs for innovating and creating, and yet do so with societal benefit. Just the thought I want to leave with you in the light of all that we've been through. Finally, a few words. I don't want to give you advice because, I think Ranjan has shared some great thoughts with you and good advice for you as you go forward. But just want to leave a bit of a scare with you. And I say this to most graduating batches, some of you would have heard me say this, that, if not 5 years from now, 10 years from now, much of the information and knowledge that you picked up in your education would be obsolete. It will either be changed, overthrown, or, not of great use. So if you want to continue to do well, if you want to continue to thrive, if you want to continue to be on the cutting edge, you have to continue learning by picking up knowledge, by picking up information, by experience, importantly, by talking to others. So as you step out of these portals today, your education is not over, nor is your learning. Yes, you have a degree. Yes, you can get a job. You will have a job already. You can do what you want. You can teach. You can work. You can start a company, do something else. But your learning is not over, because irrespective of what you're doing, what you have learned so far will be obsolete in a few years. It's a rapidly changing world. Technologies are changing it, but so is context. There are societal changes taking place. The various factors which are changing around the world because of economics, because of geopolitics, because of technology. And you are already stepping into a world that is vastly different from what it was 2-3 years ago. The 3 big C's are now dominating, which, were not existing or back of mind a few years back. And today they're affecting us seriously in every sphere: COVID, conflict, and climate change. And it's in that last part I want to lead you on to our chief guest. But before I introduce him, I do want to say once again a special word of thanks to the director and the faculty, to the staff for seeing us through very difficult times and steering the institute. I'm very proud of where the institute has reached as we mark our 11th convocation. We have a long way to go yet, but you heard in the director's report of the many new initiatives, the many accolades, the improvement in rankings. But it's a long journey we have just started. In the life of an institution, a decade and a half is not very much. But yet, these are times when things change fast, when time is getting telescoped. And so we can no longer look and say that, look, the great institutions which are in the top rankings today are 100 plus years old. When we are that old, we will get there. No. I'm sorry, those times have changed. What was achieved in 100 years now has to be achieved in 10 or 20. So we do have a long way to go. And I'm absolutely sure that with our top-notch faculty, strong support from the staff that's here, we will get to accelerate and get there. But very importantly, it's our alumni who are the major contributors. They make for the reputation of the institution. The work they do reflects back on the institute, and their own give back in terms of ideas, thoughts, coming here, talking, lecturing, mentoring younger students, maybe monetary contributions, why not, will help this institute to move forward fast. And I would urge all of you as you graduate to think of that, to think of the faculty and the staff that helped you, and of course, to think of the parents, guardians, and your social support system that has helped you to get through this and get to where you are today and move forward. My best wishes to the graduating students. I'm very sure that you will fly the flag of IIIT high as you go forward. This is, to repeat what the director said, your family, and you step out, but you never leave us. And we do hope you will come back from time to time, visit us here, and share with us your joys and your successes, as much as your pain, if any. I hope there will be very little. But best wishes to you as you move forward. Thank you. It's now my very pleasant task to not just welcome once again our chief guest, but to introduce him. I've known Arnaba for quite some time now, and he's absolutely brilliant. He's flown the flag of India high in many international gatherings. But let me give you a little bit of his background in a more formal sense. As the director mentioned, he is an international public policy expert, author, columnist, and institution builder, founder of the Council on Energy, Environment, and Water, which is CEEW. He steered the CEEW to the top ranks as one of Asia's leading policy research institutions and among the world's top 20 in a very short period of time. So I think it's a tremendous credit to Arnaba and his team. He's played a formative role in creating the International Solar Alliance, of which India is the initiator, and Arnaba has played a very critical part in that. He's a member of the Clean Energy Access Network, co-author and editor of 4 books, and has worked in 45 countries. Previously worked at Princeton, in Oxford, at the UN Development Program New York, and the World Trade Organization in Geneva. From 2018, Dr. Ghosh has served on UN's Committee for Development Policy. In 2020, the Government of India appointed him co-chair of the Energy, Environment, and Climate Change track for India's Science, Technology, and Innovation Policy. In 2021, he was appointed as co-chair of the T20 Task Force on Climate Change and Energy for Indonesia's G20 2022 presidency. Most recently, he has been appointed Government of India's G20 Finance Track Advisory Group for India's G20 presidency, which, as you know, we've just taken over and will be the presidency. India will be the president in 2023. Dr. Ghosh is co-chair of the World Economic Forum's Global Future Council on Clean Air, a member of International High-Level Panel of the Environment of Peace Initiative, and serves on the board of Climate Works Foundation. He is a frequent speaker and advisor to governments, industry, and international organizations. He writes a great deal, including 2 monthly columns and various other articles, has hosted or featured several documentaries, and his 2019 TED Talk on air quality, titled Mission 80-80-80, has crossed 250,000 views. He holds a DPhil from Oxford. Dr. Ghosh, thank you for being with us. We'd love to hear you now.